security. And this is something you all need to be aware of. First of all, we are in a global economy, whether we like it or not. If you're out in eastern Oregon, there aren't enough people to eat the wheat if we don't export it. It's a commodity that we export, right? That means somebody wants to buy it. Right now, a lot of that actually goes to China. It helps on our trade deficit because they're buying U.S. wheat. We import a lot of things. One of our biggest export is like movies. Somebody doesn't like Boeing in here. It's one of our biggest export is airplanes. One of our biggest exports. We just passed 3 trade agreements on a bipartisan basis, and the president signed them into Colombia, Panama, and Brazil. No, not Brazil. I take it Mexico. And as a result, now Oregon agricultural products will more likely be sold into those countries because the tariffs our producers were facing that others weren't, because they'd already reached trade agreements, have been brought down. So it's a huge win for potatoes. It's a huge win for beef. It's a big win for some of the fruit crops and related others. It will help Oregon producers of agricultural products, sustainable agriculture in Oregon, have a better market to sell their products, which I think is good. One of the biggest threats we face right now is the threat of theft of intellectual property over the internet. And it is real. It is happening in gigantic ways. Companies here, based here, who have spent 20 years developing their own research and technologies, are seeing that stolen from their computer systems, predominantly into foreign countries. Predominantly this is occurring out of the Ukraine and Russia and China, and it is remarkable. It is remarkable.
But can you come back to outsourcing of jobs? That's the topic I want to talk about.
Yeah, sure, happy to. So then you get into how do you manage that? And that's where I think you can do it through the tax code, but I look at it from another lens. And that is how do we, what keeps the money from coming back here and being invested here? And part of it is we have, next to Japan, which is lowering their corporate tax rate, the highest corporate tax rate in the world.
As of Sunday.
As of Sunday when Japan lowers theirs. And at the beginning of this year, Canada lowered their corporate tax rate to 15%. So I've met with Nike, a great Oregon company, started in a garage with a waffle iron in Eugene with Phil Knight. I've met with Columbia Sportswear. I've met with others who are global. I've met with the CEO of Microsoft. And depending upon what kind of business you're in, if you have manufacturing overseas, because you have to be competitive in producing your product.
So it benefits them, but it doesn't give us jobs.
No. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So we're in a competitive world market. You go, you buy your sweater, you buy your shoes, you buy that watch. You're going to look and see where's it produced, right? And it's probably produced somewhere else. But you like the price. And you're making that decision as a consumer. I think our goal should be how do we get the highest paying jobs here rather than chasing the lowest paying jobs. And I think that's part of protecting our intellectual property, investing in our education system, especially our higher education system, and trying to get that capital that's now stranded offshore here. If you're a manufacturer overseas, and a lot of these big companies have manufacturing facilities all over the globe, whether it's your tennis shoes or your computers, Apple, anybody got an iPhone? You know? Any other computer. We make the chips here at Intel. It's our biggest export out of Oregon, and they go somewhere else and are put in the machines. And then we buy it back. Sometimes this goes cross-border 3 or 4 times. The question is, how do we drive that so more of it is done here? A lot of these big companies that you talk about, frankly, pretty easily can go headquarters somewhere else. And they will, and they have. Now, I don't know, they're going to make, capital's going to flow, and they're going to make a choice for their stockholders, who they have a fiduciary responsibility to, based on rates of return. This is raw business, pretty basic. They're going to do rates of return. Yes?
But some of that has to do with the government. You know, there's so many regulations, there's so much paperwork,
now you're getting on it.
Unions are killing business here, and the taxation. So how can even a middle run or a lower
Yeah.
that's more to the point than, you know, it's cheap labor, yeah, in the other point, but it would be cheaper here and more equitable to stay if they could get out of the business of the government managing us so hard.
So
We're
so one of the things that I've supported is that Congress should have to have an up or down vote on any of the so-called major regulations out of the government. Regardless of what party's in charge, you need to have somebody you can hold accountable when a regulation affects the economy by more than $100 million. It's called the REINS Act. Had, I think, bipartisan support when it passed in the House. It's over in the Senate. Because I can tell you, from my experience, we and my staff spend a lot of time helping people try and navigate new federal regulations. All the time. All the time.
But that's
It's the FEMA thing. It's the cement plant in Durkee. It's, you know, I can, believe me. And so somewhere in here we got to quit strangling our entrepreneurs, our ability to grow, while still protecting the things we all share. I mean, like me, hate me, I actually believe in clean air, clean water, and all of that. I mean, it is something as an Oregonian I take pride in. I hike, I camp, I backpack, I ski. I like all that, and I want to preserve it. But we don't have to shut down every job here in the name of that with regulations that go so far over the edge that it makes us uncompetitive nationally, so internationally. Anyway, I'm like late for something. Thank you very much for turning out today. We'll be back with another town hall. You bet. Thank you.